All right, let's browse Twitter for a few, see what's going on here. Wait a second. What is this? Computer? Enlarge and enhance, please. Oh my gosh. 7 trophies in 12 days, including 3 trophies in a row. We got to check this list out. Hello, folks. Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU, here for another Legacy video. And today we're going to be playing an Elves deck list, or something that resembles an Elves deck list. Let's talk about this because it's a little complicated. For the purposes of Legacy, I think a lot of the time when people hear Elves, they immediately jump to this Glimpse of Nature deck that uses cards like Elvish Visionary and Wirewood Symbiote to just draw an unnatural number of cards and grind decks out, while also still presenting a quick combo kill. With Natural Order for Craterhoof Behemoth being one of the absolute easiest ways to just achieve that combo kill. But the decks that we're currently playing in Legacy that we might call elves have really shifted away from the traditional pattern of playing a lot of elves. And instead, they're relying on mid-range things that you might expect from like a Golgari mid-range deck, a rock deck. Fiend Artisan is an amazing toolbox card, and utility is something that elves decks have always had, and this thing is just going to grow larger and larger as the game goes on. Fiend Artisan works particularly well with Grist, as its plus ability both gives you creatures to sacrifice to Fiend Artisan's activated ability, and it mills cards, meaning that your Fiend Artisan is growing. And this current Elves deck is going to play out very differently. And honestly, this deck has been built largely due to one card. And that card is Plague Engineer. It used to be that if you were playing a traditional Elves deck and you just had a gajillion X1 creatures and a Plague Engineer dropped, almost all of your creatures, except maybe Wirewood Symbiote, were going to die. But now let's take a look at this Elves deck list and see the difference. This is probably a great time to mention that today's video is sponsored by both cardsphere.com and moxfield.com. And the dealer's choice donation deck list that is letting me play this winning deck list comes from Chris. So thank you, Chris. If you kind of scan this Elves deck list, you can see that we do still have Allosaurus Shepherd and Elvish Reclaimer, but this is not the like elf creature type focused deck that you might be used to seeing. And if you look at the mana dorks here, they're not elves. We are very, very intentionally building this deck list in a way so that we are not just soft to Plague Engineer, and we're also hoping to be okay versus other sweepers that might be in the format, such as a Supreme Verdict or a Terminus. If something like a Supreme Verdict happens, a Fiend Artisan is sort of like your Knight of the Reliquary for this deck. It's your thing that is going to hit very hard in the endgame while also offering a very good amount of utility. One of the things that I really like about this deck is it's crazy in terms of tempo, because you often get a free spell at the beginning of the game, you play a mana dork of some kind on turn 1, and you often snuff out your opponent's first threat. As early as, turn 2 or turn 3, well, I guess turn 3 with this deck, you can be looking at casting a Natural Order to get an Atraxa to refuel from any starting spells that you used, and you do just have some things that might be lights out versus a combo deck of some kind. The utility of Fiend Artisan sometimes means that you end up playing really weird cards because they are tutorable. Mesmeric Fiend is essentially a discard spell on a stick that you can tutor up via a Fiend Artisan activation. And while this isn't necessarily the greatest card versus combo, think of how many times you've seen just Opposition Agent, for example, as a hate bearer in these sorts of decks. It's filling a similar role. I think the last thing that I want to highlight here is the fact that we do have a bit of a spicy land, a Lair of the Hydra. We control 2 or more other lands, it enters tapped, and for a green and X, we can make it become an X green Hydra creature token, and that's pretty strong. It's just a nice way to convert all the extra mana we can get off of Gaia's Cradle, which we can tutor for via Elvish Reclaimer, into something in the late game. Yeah, so let's go ahead and hop into the matches here. This deck list is apparently very strong if you know what you're doing. Let's see how well I pilot it today. Let's battle. All right, we have a relatively solid opening hand here. Natural order is the majority of the plan for this hand. Cradle's pretty good here considering Dryad Arbor was going to be my other land drop. It's worse if my creatures end up getting removed, but it might give me the boost that I need to get to 4 mana a turn earlier. I am going to go ahead and snag that. Grab a basic forest. I think I'm just going to play an ignoble hierarch here. We're hoping my opponent is on a non-blue deck. I don't want this to get counterspelled. Against Underground Sea, I sort of just want to get Collector Oof in the dark here to stop Lotus Petals and friends in case my opponent is on a Storm or Doomsday deck. My opponent says you as well, although I think I'm relying more heavily on luck here. A comment makes me want to oof even more, I think. I think I can get a... I still think I play the Cradle, though. Let's do this for X's too. It's like so awkward if my read is wrong and I'm just playing against Death Shadow or something. You don't have to get a Brainstorm in response, but this is still ambiguous. This does feel like Brainstorm looking for a Daze, right? I don't know anymore. Okay, I don't have to decide. I might have pivoted into Fiend Artisan there. Underground Sea comes back. We can go ahead and play an Ignoble Hierarch. Drop a Dryad Arbor. I've got 4 mana. I'm willing to YOLO this, I think. I still don't really know what my opponent is doing. Okay, it happened. We'll be grabbing an Atraxa here to refuel. Get a new natural order. I've used 1 Dryad Arbor. There's another in deck. I just have another fetch land in hand. All right, sorcery, land, creature. Seems fine. If my opponent does some nonsense with a graveyard, I've got that covered. Got hits for 9 with Atraxa. Dodges like a snuff out. My opponent is Death Shadow. Alright, we've got a fetch land. Signs pointing towards maybe Doomsday? Oh no. We're probably fairer than that. I've used 1 Dryad Arbor, another one's still in the deck. So let's go ahead and fetch. Grab a Dryad Arbor, tap for 4, cast a new natural order, sacrificing the Dryad Arbor. This one will be lethal. That is a Crater Hoof. Everything gets big and my opponent is dead, and I don't really know exactly what they're playing. I might just not sideboard at all, out of fear of making my deck worse. If my opponent's playing creatures, they're probably black, right? Snuff out is probably not great. Collector Oof is either very important or dead, and I don't know which yet. I guess I could just play something generic like Mesmeric Fiend and fill a few slots with Thoughtseize to help punch a hole in the early game. My opponent didn't do things at the speed of a combo deck. They didn't have as hard of control as I was expecting from a full-on like blue-black control deck. They didn't fetch a shock land when they had a chance to fetch. They just had 2 Underground Seas. Didn't see any cantrips. Blue-black show and tell. Just didn't get to 3 lands to do their thing. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to submit like this. If I find out my opponent is indeed a combo deck, I will find room for the 2 other Thoughtseizes. If my opponent is a mid-range deck of some kind, this is a perfectly reasonable keep, and if they're a combo deck, this is slow. Alright. It is a shadow deck. In which case, I've boarded wrong, but it's not all that damning that I've boarded wrong here. I'm going to go ahead and fetch. I will just get a basic forest. I don't want to get wastelanded immediately, and I don't have a need for a Bayou immediately because I'm not playing Snuff Out in the deck right now. Okay, I was expecting some sort of fatal push on my mana dork, and that still might happen. Okay, cool. We played around that wasteland. Nice. Do I want to get wastelanded? If I play Bayou now, it opens up my opponent's wasteland. But then I can save Verdant Catacombs to get a Dryad Arbor. I think just having access to more solid mana is more important here, but I don't have the reps on this deck to know for sure. I think next turn I want to be able to play an Endurance, like clearing my opponent's graveyard so they can't just randomly Gurmag Angler or Murktide me. It seems like something that I probably want to do in this game. Although I can just play double Fiend Artisan next turn and start growing them, and that's perfectly valid as well. Ooh. My opponent kept the wrong kind of hand here. I think I'm going to start this turn off with a Thoughtseize and use that to navigate appropriately. Oh ho ho, that's the plan. It's a dress down, Phyrexian Dreadnought sort of thing. The Dreadnought has Trample. Probably makes it the scarier thing for me. I can probably chump block this thing like forever. Alternatively, I can take the dress down and leave Dreadnought stranded in hand and not give my opponent the chance to pump Death Shadow to a 13 power creature with it. Yeah, I've actually talked myself into that. I have cool Fiend Artisan lines starting next turn. I've just seen my opponent's hand. I don't necessarily have to Endurance here. I will just drop a new Fiend Artisan and attack for 2. This still does keep my opponent outside of Death Shadow range, but barely. I'm just going to deal with that via a Grist. My opponent's hand is like surprisingly awkward for a hand that is cantripped as much as they have. Oh, and they shuffled. They're just probably not finding the mana that they need to do stuff. Yeah, non-basic lands have real costs. This is fine. I would still like to draw another land. Yeah, that kind of counts. My opponent doesn't have Flusterstorm up currently. So go ahead and just Green Sun for a Dryad Arbor. Like so. I still have priority. So because I still have priority, I can go ahead and activate this, sacrificing the Dryad Arbor. Just find another thing. I think I am going to just get a Mana Dork here so that I can guaranteed find Grist next turn. I don't think I attack for the 4. I could attack for the 4, though. Like, if my opponent uses their mana for Death Shadow in this spot, like, I just activate for 1, 2, 3, 4, sacrifice an Ignoble Hierarch, sacrifice a second Hierarch, the Fiend Artisan. Yeah, okay. I'm actually fine attacking. My opponent has said, I too would like to play the game. All caps, nope. Alright, my opponent's at 9. They are facing down some scary things from a Fiend Artisan here. Snuff Out would be pretty good on their end, like Death Shadow into Snuff Out. Actually, they might not know that's good. The Watery Grave. Okay, sure. Alright, they do have the Shadow. They have a Flusterstorm to back it up. This can represent a new Dryad Arbor. So let's do that. Understanding how priority works is so cracked. So sack the Dryad Arbor. No chance to Wasteland. My opponent says dunking on me with those hot land draws. We'll go ahead and minus. Back a Hierarch. Destroy the Death Shadow. My opponent's brainstorming in response, but I don't really know what they could be looking for that stops that. I don't think there's a 1-mana colorless indestructible spell. So now we have 4. I can make it 5 incoming damage. I could Endurance my opponent to make this 6 damage and make it so that they can't fetch, while also clearing their graveyard. I don't think I want to do that. I don't think I want to do that, but it's tempting. Alright, my opponent drops to 2. Alright, they've got a land drop. Both of these cards are lethal, plus I have Fiend Artisan toolbox options to do a very insane number of different things. And my opponent has given us the GGs. Starting off strong. Today's video is sponsored by moxfield.com, which is just the best place to keep your online deck lists. And one of the things that I love about them is that you can use it to keep track of what cards you do and don't have for a deck. So for example, in this deck list, I have all of the cards, so there are nice blue bubbles filled in here, and that's automatically ported over to your collection tab, where you can see exactly what cards you do and don't have. I'm a little on the fence about this hand. So it has a turn 2 Grist into a turn 3 Natural Order if I'm not disrupted. A removal spell is good against me. Discard's good against me. Wasteland's good against me. But I also just have Endurance as sort of a safety net versus Reanimator. I am going to keep this hand, but I can see this going poorly a lot of different ways. Yeah, just like play Athalia. Ooh. Alright. Alright, I will need another land drop. Otherwise, I have to do a relatively shameful play. It's a spicy one. Oh fuck. No. My spicy play. Been put on hold. This card's cracked. So I just have to play a tapped Gaia's Cradle and pass the turn here. Now, my plan had been to evoke an Endurance, pitching my Noble Hierarch so that I could get to 2 mana to start doing Fiend Artisan things. But that was denied. Yeah, we are getting absolutely trashed by the Hate Bear side of my opponent's red-white initiative deck. They have named Allosaurus Shepherd. The reason being that that can make their Chalice not matter anymore. But I think that was bad. If I play this, it enters tap for this turn. Do I want to evoke Endurance to play Fiend Artisan so that I have more mana for later? I think so. The top end of my hand is so very strong. Let's pitch one of these 2 Noble Hierarchs here. Oh fuck, I can only play 1 spell a turn. Fuck. That side was so not relevant. Yeah, Archon shut off one of my other plans. F. Okay, I have thrown away 2 cards. Ah. We get hit for 5 on the back end here. Another Anointed Peacekeeper. One should probably just name the Natural Order. Is what I think the first one was supposed to name, by the way. If I just get an Atraxa... Oh, sure, that's reasonable as well. So this can hit activated abilities. So I play a Dryad Arbor. It enters tapped. Now I have 3 mana available this turn. I have 2 mana available. Fiend Artisan gives me a mana. Fetching also gives me a mana. Fetching kind of gives me 2 mana, though. 1 for Cradle, 1 from the land itself. I'm going to go ahead and just pass my turn then. Probably lose to my Dryad Arbor, this Dryad Arbor getting removed. Otherwise, I might be able to stabilize. It'll be tough, though. I'm at 5. Trapped from the initiative is a problem. Yeah, that's rough. Go ahead and make some mana. And fetch. We'll get a new Dryad Arbor. I have 3 mana available. I could draw a basic forest. I did not draw a basic forest. That enters tapped. Can't play this. I can play Fiend Artisan. Then tap for 2 mana. That doesn't get me anywhere. The way that I get somewhere is my opponent, like, messing up and choosing not to kill me. If I minus, I'm still dead. Yeah. I'm going to go ahead and plus. And hope that my opponent directs some damage at Grist. Me. Okay, I am dead. Alright, I threw away a card here. I don't think that really mattered. This Touch the Spirit Realm definitely won them that game. So my plan versus this deck is play an early creature, snuff out one of their things, take the initiative if they do that. Otherwise, natural order for Atraxa usually will just win me games. I'm in to snuff out. I might do some of this sort of stuff on the play to punch holes, make things like Chalice a little bit less of a problem. I don't think I need to shut off artifact mana that badly. Force of Vigor and some of this stuff are okay. Plague Engineer hits some stuff. Endurance isn't really at its best in this matchup. The Hoof isn't either, but I'm still going to keep it in case I draw Atraxa. I might not actually Thoughtseize my opponent. Like, I definitely want the Mana Dorks to accelerate into, like, Natural Order, because that's just such a strong plan. I don't think I'm going to Thoughtseize, but I don't have matchup experience from this side. Starting with this seems fine. Double Once Upon a Time is a little awkward, but let's see where this takes us. On an Elvish Reclaimer. I honestly might just want another non-Dryad Arbor land here. Go ahead and fetch while the fetching is good. Be a Bayou for snuff out purposes later. And I think I'm going with the Ignoble Hierarch here. Fury is currently pretty darn good versus what I've got going on. I end up playing out 2 small creatures next turn. My opponent played a lot of white cards in game 1. They may or may not actually have Fury. Alright, my opponent went into the tank for a while. Swords is... Oh, okay. So they're gonna... Swords my thing, and then what? Play a Chalice? Okay, and then play a Chalice. This is a-okay with me. Ooh, yeah. I will go ahead and Allosaurus Shepherd here, which ignores Chalice. I think I'm going to go ahead and Green Sun for 1 here. A Solitude on Allosaurus Shepherd in response to this would be a little savage, but this is the line that potentially lets me cast Natural Order next turn if I draw a valid mana source. They had the Solitude, and I mean, they could have drawn it, but they also might have just missed the line. It is not a common one that comes up. Fable's totally fine. Snuff Out's actively good. Went into Once Upon a Time first, I suppose, though. I play Dryad Arbor. I have Natural Order next turn unless my opponent, like, Furies or something. Alright. Let's snuff out that token. Oh, fuck, this is off because of Chalice. I was ignoring that a second ago, and I'm not ignoring it anymore. Yeah, so I should have taken Windswept Heath. That is a misplay on my end. We'll see if that ends up coming back to bite me. Opponent went through 2 lands there, so that was probably a very good Fable for them. And that is an Archon. It's totally fine. Let's go ahead and Natural Order, sacking a Dryad Arbor. You'll pick up a big bad Atraxa and refuel. I will take an instant. Is Force of Vigor on Fable and Chalice better? It actually probably is. Let's take Force of Vigor, instant, sorcery, Planeswalker. All the lands are awkward. Land Creature. 1, 2, 3. I've already played a land. I have not played a land. That makes that significantly less awkward. So then upkeep, I'll go ahead and Force of Vigor, targeting 2 of my opponent's permanents. Only 2 lands in graveyard. We'll get rid of an Elvish Reclaimer then. Oh, that's savage. I don't know that it's really going to be a problem. I don't have another Dryad Arbor in my deck. I think this is my line. I think I will go ahead and Grist. Grist minus. Sacrifice this. Blow up the Archon, which allows me to play a second spell. And I'll go ahead and drop a Mana Dork. I just sort of wish I had the Reclaimer over a Green Sun at this exact moment, though, because, like, getting a Cradle right now is kind of a big deal. No play from my opponent. Natural Order can represent a Crater Hoof. Not quite ready for that. I can be soon. Let's kind of plus with Grist, get an Insect. I go ahead and play a Fiend Artisan. Then go ahead and get an Elvish Reclaimer here, I think. And now I've got enough stuff on board where a Natural Order next turn will just be lethal. So we're in a pretty good spot. Touch the Spirit Realm is fine. I think it's actively good. So is this guy's Cradle, though. Holy moly. Alright. Yeah. Go ahead and kind of do this for free. Pick up an Elvish Reclaimer. Plus with Grist. Tap Gaia's Cradle. Natural Order. Sacrifice an Insect. Get a Crater Hoof. Alright, and we go to a game 3 scenario. I haven't seen any initiative cards from my opponent yet. Like, they're playing Touch the Spirit Realm, which you usually play to blink initiative creatures, though, so, like, they're probably there. I think I'm okay with how I've boarded. Like, I could go deeper. Like, I could Pithing Needle for that Caracas very specifically, but that seems like a card that's just not going to be great the vast majority of the time. This hand's pretty bad versus an Archon. I haven't seen a Fury yet. I'm a little scared of that. I think I'm going to go ahead and keep this. This is a hand that's not just like stone cold dead to a Chalice happening. Yeah, because this just has multiple 2-drops and like cards that can scale up larger. Am I willing to risk playing out Dryad Arbor? Very high reward if Dryad Arbor makes it around the table. Yeah, it's very high reward if this works. There is a risk to it. But the risk associated with it sometimes slows down my opponent unless it's like solid. Like if it's Solitude and my opponent gets to like remove this for free, that's super bad for me. But if they, for example, use their turn to get rid of City of Traders and touch the Spirit Realm, this, like, I think that's an okay position for me. All right, City is gone. Battle is here. Okay, and it is initiative time. All right. I think I play Cradle here so it can't randomly enter tapped next turn to Archon under perfect situations. We'll cast this for 1. Pick up Allosaurus Shepherd. And now I can ignore the Chalice moving forward. My opponent has a very reasonable clock in play. They might not be able to play a defensive body that lets them fully hold the initiative, though. I might be able to slow them down a touch. I can also just Natural Order for Atraxa on my turn. See how hard this hits. It will be 6. Fine, Snuff Out would be a very stellar draw. Alright, that's a beautiful basic land. Another Gaia's Cradle. That could make this turn interesting. So let's try to go wild here. Alright, no Solitude in response. This is 3 mana. We'll go ahead and play a Fiend Artisan. Cool. Let's drop a new Gaia's Cradle. 5 mana. Cast a Natural Order. I think Dryad Arbor is better than Reclaimer here. Go ahead and do this. So Greater Hoof would give +4/+4. That's 8, 9, 16. Or no, not 16. Let's just Atraxa. This also just reloads my hand. Oh, there's a Snuff Out. That's fantastic. I will take Snuff Out, a Bayou, and an Elvish Reclaimer. I only get 3 here. That should be fine. Drop a new Elvish Reclaimer. And go ahead and attack in with Allosaurus Shepherd. Oh shit, my Snuff Out is not currently free. Don't have a Swamp in play. I couldn't have navigated this turn differently to do that and making the other plays that I wanted to make. Hopefully this is still fine though. The Seasoned Dungeoneer attacks. Does go. Oh, it reveals a Solitude. Oh, they put it in their graveyard. Sure. I am dead to Seasoned Dungeoneer next turn if I do not kill it. Luckily, I can kill it. Go to 2 here. can't do an alternate cost snuff out anymore. The Caracas again. That's annoying. More so than anything else, it's annoying because it takes a body out of play. Guy's Cradle taps for 4. I can do this for 6. I could make this 5, 10, 11, 12 damage very easily. I can also just like get Grist and start grinding, which is probably just the direction I'll go here. I can go ahead and play Noble Hierarch for free, tap Cradle for a bunch of mana. I actually don't want to tap that. Do this for an X is 3. Sacrifice a Noble Hierarch. I hope I didn't set myself up for failure. I just thought of a line that beats this. Okay, it doesn't seem like they have it. We'll sacrifice the Dryad Arbor at this point to destroy this. Cycling Touch the Spirit Realm here is a blowout that I could have played around by holding up Snuff Out. Oh, it just occurred. So I could activate Elvish Reclaimer. I think I'm going to go ahead and just cast Fiend Artisan. And then attack in with both of my creatures instead to guarantee that I take the initiative. Alright, cool. I will go ahead and forge up... I'll just forge up a Fiend Artisan here. I've already made a land drop. I'll call it a turn. So I've got 6, 10, 11, 12, plus 5, 17. That's fine. Okay, they're going with shutting off. Well, not shutting off, but making my Fiend Artisan activations worse. So I will trap my opponent to 10. Cool. Let's plus with Grist. Gets me up to 5 creatures. If I fetch a Dryad Arbor, I have 6 creatures for the purpose of activating this ability. I think I'm just gonna go ahead and swing here and not cast Snuff Out. This is 4, 7, 8 damage. Guess I can go ahead and just activate this. I don't need to fetch Dryad Arbor, I can save that as a trick. Okay, that's, they did it on their own chalice. Okay, yeah, that's totally fine. GG's. Have you enjoyed watching me bully people with Fairy Mastermind over the last couple of videos? Well, consider getting your own copy. It seems it's pretty popular over on cardsphere.com, a fantastic way to trade cards peer-to-peer, and they've got some other services as well, and they've even got some written content. Please consider checking them out. They do have some other functionality like being able to sell cards directly to them as well. All right, back to the show. I think this hand is still fine. Once Upon a Time should find me a valid turn 1 play the vast majority of the time. And then I have good turn 2 and turn 3 plays. It's not insane or anything, but it's totally fine. I think so why Once Upon a Time doesn't get dazed, I go ahead and just play out a land drop prior to casting this. Yes. I think Allosaurus Shepherd is the get here. By the fact that Reclaimer is quite good with this many lands in play. I'm about to get stifled. I am about to get stifled. Joke's on you, I have 4 lands in play. Nice stifle. I will get punished when they have the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stifle. Right, what's a follow-up play? It's just a Ponder. And a fast shuffle with it. Green Sun's perfectly fine. I think I am going to stay on the plan of play the Allosaurus Shepherd first. But it is possible that's wrong. Like my opponent has seen it coming now and has had some time to prepare with Brainstorm and Ponder. Playing Green Sun and getting a Dryad Arbor that turn, for example, starts making some of the other things in my hand look more attractive. Okay. I think I'm starting with land drop. This is just wastelandable if I do this, but if I cast it for 2 mana, it's dazable, and that also forces a fetch. Alright, I'm gonna do that though. You may attempt to use your Daze or Spell Pierce or whatever on this card. Okay, it does happen. I don't mind clearing Dazes when these cards are so good. I am a little bit afraid of something like a Murktide Regent just coming down and being a problem. I'm fine with like a Tarmogoyf, but the evasion of Murktide in particular is a pain in the ass. Ah, hello? Note that my opponent did not go as hard as possible on that Murktide Regent, which may mean that they have a second one? Which would be, as they say, some shit. And now I have like this whole like wasteland stifle thing to think about. I have 2 forests. How many bayous do I have? Like how many fetchables are there here? 2 bayous, 2 forests, 2 dryad arbors. Uh-oh. 2 bayou, 2 forest, 1 dryad arbor. This misty rainforest can only get a dryad arbor. Guess I'm glad I caught that now. I'll go ahead and play this turn. I think the stuff I'm gonna do is gonna end up being a little too slow here. Alright, yep. There is indeed the second Murktide Regent that I called. Meaning that my whole plan of Grist, sacrifice a creature to clear Murktide Regent isn't really good enough anymore. Misty Rainforest now does nothing. I am on very few outs here. I'll go ahead and minus. We'll kill the bigger of the 2 Murktide Regents. And I think I need my opponent to attack my Grist this turn. If my opponent attacks me directly, I can't snuff out for life, which is one of my outs. Alright, they are going for me. I may die to Lightning Bolt. Thank you, Atraxa. Very cool. I am not on any outs now. I will concede. That was a great Delver hand from my opponent. Endurance is great. Plague Engineer is reasonable. My opponent has Minsk and Boo. Putting it on Hamster is good. If not, I can put it on Human for something like Dragon Rage Channeler or Delver. Snuff Out and Leyline are playable. I do not want Collector Oof. And here I just don't know what like my sideboarding heuristics are. I could see that it's possible that I'm just supposed to like board out Natural Order Atraxa Hoof and just grind my opponent to dust with Fiend Artisans. I think I'm going to do that on the draw. Just straight up eliminate my combo finish and play like just the rock. Oh, wait, my opponent won, so I'm on the play. My Natural Orders are better on the play. I just don't want to do this plan though. I could not play Leyline on the play to keep Atraxa and 2 Natural Orders. Yeah, that's reasonable. I will, of course, draw Atraxa now that I've done this and taken out the hoof. Yeah, this is fine. I am going to start on Bayou, despite the fact that it is wastelandable here. Because I do want the swamp for the purposes of Snuff Out. Alright, and this is part of the reason why you want 2 Dryad Arbors in this deck. Like, if you have one in the opener, you really still do need to be able to play the other one. Because, like, you're such a good Cradle deck. See what my opponent has in store for me here. Sure. That's just gonna exist. That's just gonna be something I'm gonna have to live with. Never fails. It never fucking fails. Do I play Days of Old Grist? It's probably the way that I win this game. Like, this has shut off so much of my long-term utility. I think just jamming a Grist and hoping that it spirals out of control is better than trying to dodge Days. Like, if this trades with a Force of Will or a Force of Negation, I'm perfectly happy with that. Just Days that is punishing for that. But here we are. Unholy Heat occurs. I will probably Bojuka Bog next turn rather than this turn. You've got work to do. I can do 2 damage a turn while having a Snuff Out available. And I will probably take that out. We do it now. I'm playing around Days already. I will go ahead and do that now. Plays around Force of Negation by doing it on this turn cycle. Yeah, so Age shuts off my green sun here. I did not bring in Force of Vigor, so we're going to be hard-pressed to remove that cage. But we do get 2 points of damage. And make the Murktide Regent type cards, Armagoyfs of the world, considerably worse. Alright, my opponent's going to get to resculpt their hand. What am I most afraid of that my opponent's going to draw off the Brainstorm? Probably Forked Bolt. Probably Forked Bolt. Card sees virtually no legacy play right now, though. Bash in for my 2 points of damage. I have three dead cards in hand. Let's see if my opponent is doing anything end of turn or just clearing Brainstorm. Oh, new Brainstorm. Okay, Wasteland is annoying, but not the end of the world. Until my opponent starts clocking me, I'm not particularly afraid. This does represent a lot of selection, though. My opponent only has 2 card types in Graveyard. An instant is already there. I think a Dryad Arbor attack is perfectly reasonable, and then I can play a post-combat Elvish Reclaimer around days. Get in there, little buddy. Alright. Okay. That is certainly a play you're allowed to make. I don't fully understand it. Force of Will pitching Murktide. Okay. Do you have another Murktide, and like you were planning on using this as a card in Graveyard? Okay, and you did not use that as a card in Graveyard because you did Force of Will? I don't know about that one. I have 3 cards, 3 dead cards in hand, so like that probably works, but I imagine that just like keeping the Dragon Rage Channeler in play also results in you making the Murktide Regent the next turn most of the time. So I'm technically on a 3-turn clock, although I'm dead next turn if my opponent has a Lightning Bolt. That is not gonna do what I need it to do here. Double Exalted for 3 damage. I'm very much not winning the race with what's on board here. So yeah, I will eat the 6, and we'll see if I die now, or if I have one more turn drawn out to Murktide. I can hard cast a Snuff Out. Do I have any land that stops a Murktide Regent? No. I do not. I end up turn cycle or two too short here. Yeah, my opponent's turn 1 Grafdigger's Cage stopping this, plus the comic attracts a draw, was brutal. GG. Okay, I don't know about this one. So this one requires me to get Dryad Arbor on turn 1, so that on turn 2 I can have 2 mana to play Fiend Artisan. It does go turbo into a natural order, but I don't know. This hand is just fully on the gamble that my opponent does not have a removal spell, and if they have a removal spell, my hand produces 0 mana. I am just going to throw this back and try to find something safer. This is fine. I don't want Endurance with this hand, and seeing as my opponent has Mulligan to 5, I don't think I'm going to keep Snuff Out. It's too likely that they're a combo deck. I will start with Once Upon a Time. What do I want of this? Probably just Cradle. It has the highest upside here. I think I'm going to go Bayou Reclaimer here so that I can rotate into Bojuka Bog on turn 2 if my opponent is Reanimator. I may be reading too much into a Mulligan to 5, but it's so frequently just Reanimator when my opponents go that deep. Or maybe Show and Tell here. Or Ninjas. Okay. So let's drop a Hierarch. Do 2 mana. Go ahead and put the Fiend Artisan into play. And that's my turn. I can hopefully start doing cool things on my own turn with like Fiend Artisan and whatnot. I have no blockers here, so my opponent's going to pay 2 mana to put in one of these assorted creatures that draws a card when a ninja deals combat damage. And then they can redeploy the Ornithopter post-combat. That's very strong, actually. There's a few different ways to play this turn. I'm thinking about whether or not I want Dryad Arbor. Because, like, I can play Endurance and then activate a Fiend Artisan, and that's a pretty good turn. I'm just going to do that. We will just sorcery speed this Endurance so that I have a good blocker. Then I've got a Fiend Artisan activation, which can now be for X is 3. We'll sacrifice a Reclaimer. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just get Grist going. I think I just Grist Plus, because there's a very good chance that that grows the Fiend Artisan. And if my opponent dedicates a whole bunch of resources for going after that Grist, guess what? I can just do it again next turn. Alright, so I will go ahead. These are both going at me. Go ahead and block one Ornithopter. Unblocked Ornithopter will become something else. And each one of those will trigger due to how this is worded. And then I can start going to town on my opponent's permanents that they play out. Sure. Oh, that's gross. If I was just doing that before anything else. Bad against a counterspell. Let's do it anyway. Okay, is my opponent dead? So +4/+4, 4, 8, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, plus another 5, yes. So we'll go ahead and hoof and send them all in. All right, good stuff. I'm not entirely sure that that's better than just Grist minus kill a thing, Fiend Artisan activate, get a new Grist or something, Grist minus kill another thing. There's a lot of lines that turn. All right, I am interested in Endurance. Plague Engineer on Ninja does some stuff that's kind of cool. I think I'm interested in Snuff Out. I can consider Fiend, or sorry, not Fiend Artisan. I can consider Force of Vigor for some of the sideboard cards that my opponent can have, as well as Retrofitter Foundry. Let's think about that. I'm not sold on it, though. The Snuff Outs are weird because they get some stuff, but they don't get, like, all the ninjas themselves. They get enablers. They get Urza Saga tokens. Are they actually good? Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how I want to board here. I might go down a Grist. Might go down a Natural Order. That gets me Endurance and Plague Engineer. I think I want both my Natural Order targets, despite the fact that I think I'm going to play 2 Natural Orders. Oh, maybe Snuff Out's not good enough. Tempo positive, but it misses Changeling, Outcasts, and the actual ninjas themselves, other than Moon Circuit Hacker if my opponent is playing that. What if I get rid of all of those? I just do something like this? Not sure. Not the biggest fan of this hand. I just don't feel like it's going to be fast enough, despite the fact that it dodges counter spells. This I'm fine with. It feels like I have plenty to do with my mana already. I'm going to go ahead and pitch the Urza Saga. All right, there's an Ornithopter and a Changeling Outcast. Yeah, so on this hypothetical turn 1, my opponent would still be able to ninjutsu on turn 2. All right, let's layer. I think this is worth doing. My opponent's deck has so many free counter spells, or at least can in theory. And let's see where this goes. Abrupt Decay is fine. That means that my opponent's not hitting me with a ninja this turn, and the longer I put off that card advantage, the better for me. Let's go ahead and attempt to fish a Dryad Arbor out of my deck. And this is only 1 mana right now. I don't think it's worth getting cute here. Definitely scared of my position. What's going on? I'm not going to like it, whatever it is. Oh, a Murderous Cut. That is a delve removal spell. Does not see significant amounts of legacy play. Alright, so I've got a land drop. I can go ahead and Green Sun for the 2nd copy of Dryad Arbor and then play Fiend Artisan. I am into that. So this is a very important turn for my opponent here. I think if they don't have a ninja this turn, interesting. I think if they don't have a ninja this turn, they are in a lot of trouble. Grist is quite good. Sure, so they're gonna sacrifice an Ornithopter to blow up my Fiend Artisan. I think my opponent forgot that this can't block. They've missed a point of damage here. And I get to kill their Grist. So yeah. That Grist. Alright, good stuff. They could have sacrificed this and left an Ornithopter, and then that line wasn't possible, and I would have had to do some things differently. Go ahead and fetch. A basic forest is fine. I do 2 mana for Fiend Artisan. Gaia's Cradle still allows me to play Endurance. I will sorcery speed that since my opponent has already shown me that they are using their graveyard with things like Murderous Cut. I think my opponent gave up a lot more than they had to. Alright, they do finally have a ninja. The Eureka will give them 2 cards, Island, and a Misty Rainforest. That's not what they're looking for. I cast Endurance, nuke my opponent's graveyard, have 4 mana, get Grist. Yeah, okay. Endurance. Target you. Right, we're still the thing that's going. We'll activate it for the 4th. Alright, goodbye Dryad Arbor. Hello Grist. Grist minus. Sacrifice Endurance. Take out Yuriko. These can't be blocked, so it's fine for me to swing. Fiend Artisan represents a lot of damage. My Gaia's Cradle has gotten worse. I think that's fine. 1 at me, 1 at Grist. No follow-up ninja. That's not great for my opponent. Alright, cool. I don't think I need to remove this right now. I have a Plague Engineer in my deck right now, right? Like, this is a post-sideboard game. Yes. I think I'm going to go ahead and attack with Endurance and then activate Fiend Artisan. This for X is 3. Junking Endurance. Grabbing Plague Engineer. We'll put that on Ninja, which kills both copies of Changeling Outcast. They have drawn a new Ninja for Ornithopter. Alright, that's fine. And then they give up because Yuriko has no power. Yeah, GG's. Alright, I've kept this hand. It's a little mana heavy for my liking, and I kind of have to figure out like what I'm doing in terms of the lands. I think I'm going to lead on Lair into Noble Hierarch and let Noble Hierarch eat a removal spell in hopes of Elvish Reclaimer living. This gives me the flexibility of keeping Misty to get a Dryad Arbor later if I need that. But, like, you know, there's turn 1 Blood Moon to think about, there's Stifle to think about, there's Growing Elvish Reclaimer to think about. I don't think the turn is necessarily super straightforward. We are potentially playing against lands here. Yeah, Sphere of Resistance lands. I'm not 100% familiar with the current builds. I don't think the Sphere builds usually have Punishing Fire. Those 2 cards don't work super well in conjunction. I think I'm going to be okay. I probably do still want to fetch, though. Basic? Basic, I think. Let's make an Elvish Reclaimer, then bash for 1. At some point, I can hard cast to clear out a graveyard if it looks like a Life from the Loam is going to be a problem. But my opponent's critters are real good right now. Or sorry, they're like Urza Saga tokens are real good right now. They're not even going for them. They've got other plans. A Soul Guide Lantern. Definitely makes my Elvish Reclaimer worse. I don't have anything like a Wasteland in here, right? Yeah, I don't. I think I'm into... God, Blast Zone's terrifying. Is that terrifying enough that I just need to Endurance that if my opponent has Life from the Loam? Or is that me playing scared and not developing my board in the way that I need to? That might be me playing scared. I think I'm going to go 2 mana for the Shepherd, drop a Bayou, and leave open Elvish Reclaimer. This at least bluffs a Bojuka Bog, although I might need to activate Elvish Reclaimer prior to Urza's Saga going off, actually. Because Pithing Needle is a thing that is certainly in my opponent's deck list. Yeah, okay. I'll let my opponent commit to whether or not they're making a construct. Okay. That's rough. They still are going to get this search trigger that's on the stack. That's very good. Okay. Cradle Cradle covers that. I'm okay so far. Oh, fuck. I forgot to search in response to get the Cradle. Okay, cool. No Pithing Needle Punish. It would have been very bad. I shouldn't care about Snuff Out, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Bayou here. Or Cradle. I'm going to pay for all these. Ah, perfect timing, Snuff Out. I think this is my good chance to Bojuka Bog at sorcery speed and just clear out a bunch of utility lands that I don't want coming back. And I'll hold up these 3 permanents. It's these 4 permanents that I can hardcast an Endurance if things get weird. Otherwise, I will keep working on Elvish Reclaimer. Kind of a pain in the butt to do so. Maybe I should have just planned on casting Endurance in this turn cycle. No, there was a reason I didn't want to do that. It was this. Okay, yeah. Figured it all out. But now I am holding up Reclaimer as protection from Wasteland. Saga's rough. Getting my own Saga is not the best in the face of Tabernacle and an opposing Saga, which is just going to be bigger. Sure. I'm hoping my opponent just messes up and fires off a Wasteland at Cradle. Thank you. I just sacrifice my Cradle and turn it into a new Cradle. So we'll go ahead and pay for all of my critters. I think I just hold up Elvish Reclaimer basically forever, meaning that I have 2 3-mana to work with this turn. I'm going to play Misty attack with Allosaurus Shepherd and call that good enough for right now. Leaves me with pretty good instant speed, flexibility. Creatures are still small though. Elvish Reclaimer is about to get big. I don't pull the trigger on this yet. I'm going to go ahead and cast Once Upon a Time with my mana here. I do not want to find Atraxa. I don't want to find Verdant Catacombs either, but I'm definitely getting it here. Dryad Arbor, not the draw that I am looking for, but the draw that I'm getting. Going to just grab a basic forest here. I can attack with this creature as a 4/5, which is better than the Urza Saga token. We'll rumble. That's fine. All right, my opponent will go to 11. I'll call it a turn. I'll let them pay for a tax on their construct token over there. We'll see what they do with this. Last time they got a Mox Diamond. That doesn't mean they don't have Pithing Needle or Expedition Map. Yeah, that's fine. Allosaurus Shepherd is a decent name here in case I start trying to pivot into that role. They could just name Fiend Artisan. Naming Misty doesn't do a ton with this up. Or the Hydra isn't the most attractive attacker, but it can definitely do stuff. Okay, they are going for the Shepherd. Note that I could have gone more aggro with Shepherd, but I was worried about dropping Endurance. I just feel like that's the easiest way for me to lose this game, is my opponent's graveyard just going out of control. I think I'm just going to hardcast Snuff Out. I think I'll preserve the 4 life here. My Cradle basically stays perpetually tapped to keep feeding Tabernacle. I guess let's do this. And cast a new one of these while still having Endurance up. Attack with this as a 4/5. That's not good enough right now. My opponent is being more heavily taxed by the Tabernacle than I am. Ooh, that's quite good. Wasteland doesn't do anything right now other than let Shadowspear equip. My opponent has a 7/7 lifelinker. My plan for this. Is it trade? Like, is this situation bad enough that I just go like Reclaimer, Allosaurus Shepherd in front? No, probably Reclaimer, Dryad Arbor in front. Yes. Actually, Dryad Arbor is probably more valuable than Allosaurus Shepherd right now. I don't care if my stuff becomes counterable. This is 7. My opponent literally cannot cast any spells. Yes, this is fine. Opponent got sick value off Urza Saga. I think I should have used my active Elvish Reclaimer to turn Dryad Arbor into Urza Saga there. Oh well. Ooh, that is a big draw. I can do this for X is 5. We're not into this is a finisher territory yet. I can get really good stuff. I want to leave open 2 mana. I can go ahead and cast this for X is 3 while leaving up 2 mana for Reclaimer. I think I just grabbed Grist. Possible I should go more aggro than that. But Grist just feels pretty good as a non-combat way to do some extra damage. I guess I dropped Endurance by doing that if my opponent draws life from the loam this turn. Deck is so complicated. Alright. We'll go ahead and sacrifice a Cradle to search for a new Cradle. Oh, that's it. Go ahead and pay for all my stuff here. What's attacking? Not Elvish Reclaimer is the answer to that. I just try to turn... I could start turning the corner with Lair of the Hydra, but I want to just leave up mana for Endurance at all times. Like, this is not fast, but it is certainly getting the job done. I think that's just one of the things you sign up for when you play this deck, is sometimes, like, you just take the line that allows you to just continue to grind value rather than going for it, because you don't have to go for it. Is this just enough? Is just enough where I dump Endurance into play? I attack for what, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 plus Grist minus 10, 11. I don't need to do it. Fiend Artisan is cool. Go ahead and send in with one of these. Another 3 points of damage at my opponent. I'll just mill again. Hold on, if I pay 3, 1, 2, 3, I still have 4 up. That's fine. Alright, cool. Note, I also have some cute lines where I sacrifice a whole bunch of my creatures and then I just Grist minus for a gajillion. Yeah, alright. My opponent is now hellbent. I don't mind just speeding up my process of killing them. Alright. Alright, my opponent's dead. That was a very long game. I think I made some missteps in there, but I think my opponent made some worse ones. Like, twice they just kind of wastelanded me for no gain, when they could have, like, saved the wasteland to more permanently try to get rid of a Cradle and wipe my board of stuff. Alright, I like Force of Vigor, I like Endurance, I like Pithing Needle. I don't really like Allosaurus Shepherd. Atraxa and Crater Hoof are awkward. Like, my opponent is a crop rotation deck with access to Caracas. That said, it is just a lot of fuel if I stall out, and Crater Hoof as a way to just push me over the edge and kill my opponent I like a lot. Leyline seems okay. I like Endurance better. Endurance just beats. I need to cut at least 2 more cards. I think I'm fond of Collector Oof, shutting off Mox Diamonds. Can I get rid of all of these reasonably? I think I want to do this. I am bringing in 2 Force of Vigors, which are just like better snuff outs for dealing with Urza Saga. Fine. I don't feel like I've sideboarded correctly, but I don't think I've sideboarded that badly either. I'd say this is unexciting, but fine. I honestly think the thing that I have to worry about the most is just, like, losing game 2 in a long drawn-out game and then timing out. That Caracas I was talking about. Saga is cool. I'm not really ready for that yet. Grab a basic forest. And I think I would like to ramp here, despite the fact that the ramp is worse against Tabernacle just naturally being in my opponent's hand. Okay. I can play in Endurance and block for a turn. I'm going to think about this for like 30 seconds and then concede if I can't see a way out. I don't have Caracas, right? Don't have Caracas in this build, so once it's in play, I literally cannot answer it. I would have to, like, get an Atraxa, go to above 27, chump block forever. Yeah, I am soft to Merit Lodge. Understood, there's not a lot that I can do about that. Like, I could play Thoughtseize when I'm on the play to try and punch a hole in that plan. Like, is that scary enough? Like, now my opponent knows that, like, I'm very soft to that, and they can just mulligan for it. Am I soft enough to that I play Thoughtseize against this deck? Like, I could drop these 5 cards, play 4 Thoughtseizes. I could bring this back in as a mana sink. I don't know. At the same time, Natural Order into Craterhoof is one of my fastest ways to challenge a Merit Lodge start. I'm just going to resubmit the deck as is. That is no green mana. Yes, I'm into this hand. Boy, this hand is hard to play. I think Urza's Saga goes back. I think I start growing the graveyard immediately. Get basic forest. Get one of the Dryad Arbors back. And work towards hopefully a turn 3 natural order. Throwing back the Urza Saga means that I don't have the turn 3 natural order guaranteed. I have 2 draw steps to hit another mana source, and this just leaves me with Pithing Needle in case I need to stop a problem permanent. Oh, that's very good. Ooh. Don't love that. Elvish Reclaimer will be active pretty early here. I really don't want to put this on Wasteland, but it feels correct to. Because if my opponent just has Dark Depths Thespian Stage, and I do this on Wasteland to protect this Dryad Arbor for natural order purposes, I just set myself up for failure. But I think I have to play to the game that I can see here. But I do lose some portion of the time for doing this. But I have to respect the grindy life from the loam hand that might end up happening. I am so good with Sphere of Resistance here. Oh, no more land drops from my opponent? Oh, that's spooky. Okay, so this is Dryad Arbor Pass. And then I will pick up a Gaia's Cradle instead of one of these copies of Forests, since Wasteland is Pithing Needled. Bog is fine. That was presumably my opponent's draw for turn. We've got Crop Rotation. Feels like it probably needs to be like Urza Saga. I don't think you can Tabernacle. A Ghost Quarter, sure. Like, am I getting Urza Saga of my own here? I was interested in Cradle, but I think I just take a value bog on my opponent here. It seems like they really wanted that Ghost Quarter, presumably to like set up for a long game where they get to recur it, and I think I just don't let them play that game. Can't Endurance this turn. I probably just need to go ahead and develop mana. I will take an Ignoble Hierarch. Attack for 2 here. My opponent is on 2 mana to my 4 mana. I have a natural order in hand for when I get 1 more mana. I have Endurance as a safety net. I feel pretty good here. Crop Rotation is fine. Like, you can Tabernacle and go to 1 mana source instead of 2 mana sources. Yavimaya. Okay. That's almost what I need. Hold up Endurance. Hold up Endurance and Activation. Yeah, that seems fine. Just play safe, and then I can natural order for a kill, I think. I'll do the math in a minute after I see whether or not I actually do play an Endurance. Yeah, I think it's lethal. That's fine. You can remove my Dryad Arbor. We'll end of turn. Go ahead and Endurance them. We'll go ahead and do the 5 mana natural order, sacrificing Ignoble Hierarch. Picking up Craterhoof. Everything gets +3/+3 for a total of 9 additional power. And we'll go ahead and swing in here. Opponent going to exactly 0. And we end up with a 4-1 finish in this league. Alright, in no capacity am I going to claim that I played this league perfectly, because I didn't, and there were plenty of things that I didn't really know about sideboarding, but like, this deck is good, and I am not surprised to see Mats with the absolutely crazy results that he has with this deck list. Like, I, in picking up this 75 for the first time, got a 4-1. I'll admit, in my last round, I think my opponent could have played a little bit tighter, but I could have played tighter in my other rounds too, right? So that's often just true. But I felt like I had a very strong ability to grind through stuff. There were some specific things that I had a lot of trouble answering. A Merit Lodge, for example, was just something that I just did not have anything to deal with. The Urza Saga was something that I didn't utilize in this league. I was definitely thinking about it a couple of times, though, so like I don't mind having it in the deck list, despite the fact that it is a colorless source. I think the Urza Saga cost me one mulligan that I otherwise would have kept. But having that option for grindy matchups was definitely reasonable. Although I don't really have much of a toolbox for it. It's literally just the Pithing Needle that's in the sideboard. But yeah, this one gets a huge thumbs up for me. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any thoughts about the deck, please throw them down below. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya.